Welcome to the North Park Podcast, where pastors and people connect. This is the place to get to know your pastors as they address theology, ministry, and more. Join us now for today's conversation.
Well, hello and welcome to the North Park Podcast. We are going to have a seasonal episode today. We want to give some stocking stuffer book recommendations. We did this last year. I don't know how often we will do this, if we'll do this every year. I was looking back at the episode we did last year, and you could probably just go back to that one and still have plenty of options to choose from. I think we're going to try and do a little less than what we did last time. Last time we had Erica call in, right?
I can't remember if it was for Christmas or for just kids' books in general.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So there might be some redundancies and things we suggest, but that's okay. It's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, we should maybe just have a new tab on the church website that's everything that the pastoral team has recommended.
We've talked about that.
That's not a bad idea.
But before we get into some recommendations, I pulled up some fun Christmas facts, and I'm just realizing this is the same. I think I did this with our Christmas special last year. An article from thepioneerwoman.com.
Tell us about this.
Does that sound familiar? It was just the first thing that came up on Google. But here's something I thought was interesting since we're about to celebrate Thanksgiving. A Christmas fact. Jingle Bells was originally a Thanksgiving song. Did you know this?
I did not know that.
It was written by, do you know who wrote it?
No.
Written by James Lord Piermont in 1857 for his church's Thanksgiving concert, which maybe we should do a Thanksgiving concert sometime.
It's not a bad idea.
But over the years, it became more closely associated with Christmas and is now one of the most popular holiday songs. That's interesting, though.
I'm trying to think
To the lyrics
what from the song connects to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, can you pull that up, Zach?
Yeah.
Jingle bells.
Who'd you say? Tell me about this guy.
James Lord Piermont. This was in 1857.
Where's he writing out of?
You know, it doesn't say that. It sounds like a British name, though.
It does sound like a British name. My problem with that is that is Thanksgiving a British holiday?
Wow, this is getting dark. I mean, the British came over to America.
Yeah. I feel like they kind of washed their hands of this whole thing, though.
The Pioneer Woman is not super big on like the historical research. It's just kind of straight facts. So I don't have a whole lot.
You know what they call that
What?
in the research world? Making stuff up.
Making stuff up, yeah. James Lord Piermont is just an AI figure. What do you got, Zach?
So it shows up actually in at least 5 hymnals.
Say what?
Okay,
Jingle Bells shows up in at least 5, according to hymnary.org. Sometimes it's called Dashing Through the Snow, not Jingle Bells.
Okay.
It shows up in at least 5 hymnals in the last couple centuries,
Okay.
which is not that many compared to like Amazing Grace, which is in like 500
True.
hymnals. But apparently made the cut in some cases.
Trying to think what even is a reference to the Lord.
Yeah, so we're familiar with verse 1,
Yeah.
Christmas.
which is dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. Over the fields we go, laughing all the way, bells on bobtail ring, 1 bobtail, not 6 bobtails, making spirits bright, what fun it is to ride and sing in a sleighing song tonight. Insert chorus. Verse 2 says, a day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lank. Misfortune seemed his lot. This is straight out of a hymnal. He got into a drifted bank, and we got upsot. Yeah, we got upsot. Chorus. Verse 3. Now the ground is white. Go it while you're young. Take the girls tonight and sing the sleighing song. Just get a bobtailed bay, 240 for his speed. Then hitch him to an open sleigh, and crack, you'll take the lead.
We should just have a new segment of Zach, like just reading lyrics and realizing how bizarre they are.
Yeah. Public domain author James Lord Piermont.
I once again ask what the criteria was to
It
get
sounds
into
like
those hymnals.
Tailgate drinking song or
A little
something.
bit.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm trying to find like the actual hymnals though. It was actually in.
So my thought is, what does it have to do with Thanksgiving? But also, how is it a Christmas song? Other than that, there's snow
Yeah.
and there's bells.
Goodness.
James Lord Piermont.
Yeah, so that's out of a 1918 hymnal.
Maybe they like Christianized the. Well, no, you just read.
Well, I'm
the
trying to
whole
think
thing.
if it was like placed in response to like a war or modified for one of the wars or something. Like the guy's coming home from battle and I don't
Trying
know.
to just go for a ride with Miss Fanny and on that scrawny horse that hits a snowbank and therefore should be sung at a Thanksgiving concert at the church.
In memory of Fanny.
Got anything else for us to
Yeah.
look up for you?
Do you know? You might know this. The Japanese tradition, what they eat at Christmas time.
Mochi?
Mochi. It's an American food.
What they eat on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve or just Christmas?
You could even say an American restaurant,
Hamburgers?
which includes the name of a nearby state.
Oh,
New York?
KFC?
What?
They eat Kentucky Fried
Oh,
Chicken.
yeah. Yeah, I've heard that. I lived in Louisville
Really?
for 3 years. I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a marketing campaign that KFC did in the 70s.
Yeah.
eating
There's a slew of really funny videos you can watch that are KFC marketing to Japanese
Oh my
audiences.
goodness.
It's really funny.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they'll eat a bucket of
So
KFC.
it'll be like
chicken.
the founder of Nintendo or the founder of like Subaru, like chowing down on a.
No kidding.
It's really funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll end with one more that's fitting for our larger discussion. How did the tradition of Christmas stockings begin? Any guesses on that?
wasn't it?
According to history or according to favorite Christmas movies?
According to the pioneerwoman.com.
The poor kids in Somber Town had to do their chores, and part of their chores were to wash their stockings, and then they had to nail them up above the fireplace to dry. And Kris Kringle, who wanted to bring toys to Somber Town, thought that maybe that would be a good place to hide them from the Burgermeister Burger, who was very anti-toy after a certain injury.
Is that in the movie?
Santa Claus is coming to town.
I don't remember that.
Yes, and Santa Claus is coming
Interesting. That's actually very close to what it is. I wish this is what I found in my stocking. It says the popular legend involves Saint Nicholas, who, according to folklore, put gold coins in the stockings of 3 poor sisters. I've never gotten a gold coin in my stocking, but I am.
Now,
fan.
I've heard of the original Saint Nick dropping bags of coins. I've heard that story for those kids that were like going to be sold because the family was so impoverished, and he dropped a bag of coins or something like that so that the family wouldn't have to do that.
So is a gold coin the opposite of a stocking full of coal? Is that where that comes from?
I suppose.
Anyways,
Speaking of stocking stuffers,
speaking of stocking
Speaking
stuffers.
of nice transition,
So
expert level transition.
I have no idea how many things you guys brought, but I have maybe 5 or 6 things to mention. You guys in that ballpark? Hopefully.
5 or 6 or 7 or 8.
Okay. All right. Anyone?
But I could do I could combine 3 of them together
Okay.
because they're all very similar.
Why don't you start with that 3-pack?
You want me to start with the 3-pack?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I misread that. No, I'm kidding.
It's a 12-pack.
It's actually a 12-pack. All right, so this is a little bit of a left field, and I think this is kind of in honor of Zach's unorthodox recommendations last time, where he didn't come with book recs. He came with compliments to the books, such as, like, what'd you have? You had, like, coffee. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had some really good.
Yeah,
like,
I remember.
yeah.
Coffee, a nice pen.
Yeah. So in honor of that, I put here an Audible or Spotify premium membership. Audible and Spotify, actually Spotify, I've been more impressed with Spotify premiums audiobooks that they just rolled out, I think this year. They have some unbelievable Christian books there, an audiobook that comes with the premium package. So many. I've got a listening list that I cannot keep up with right now. I'm just gobbling them up. And so that could be a really great gift for the year. The Audible, you kind of have to purchase how many books you want to get through the year. So maybe it's 12 books, once a month is in your premium membership. And then you can get access to some other Audible premium books as well. If I were to give my recommendation, I'd say go with the Spotify premium and get the music as well with it. The books are incredible. And then kind of bound up with that. So you got Audible, Spotify, and then another one that I have kind of in the same vein is set up for your loved one a Logos account. Logos is Bible software. It's the Bible software that your pastoral team here at North Park loves and uses. You can spend thousands of dollars on your Logos membership, or you can set up a free account and you can begin to get free digital books every month. They give a free book of the month. And then you can also just start to kind of develop your library with books that you in particular want to add to your account. And then really they do more than just one free book a month. You can get a free Logos book, a free Faith Life book, a free audio book. I get 3 to 5 free resources every month through my Logos account. And again, you can get the account for free and just start building up that library. And then you just Google free Logos books of the month, and then you can find some forums with all the links to the Faith Life, all those other things I mentioned. So if you go any of those routes, do know that it would be a deep delight of mine to sit down with you and show you all of the features to those that I love and use. So that's what I would kick off with.
I'm sensing a trend with our suggestions already, because you went the virtual route. So this is pretty much going to be a bottomless stocking if we keep in the virtual.
Well, I tell you what, it's a good time to be alive.
You mean an empty stocking?
You just put a little index card with the username and password, and that'll serve.
Yeah, because I was actually going to suggest tickets.
Ooh.
Tickets to some kind of pastors' conference, Christian conference, worship conference. Actually, January too, is often when there's early bird specials for conferences coming up the next year.
Yeah.
So I think next year we have things like the Gospel Coalition's national
there's a couple
in
April in Indianapolis. It's drivable. It's accessible.
Exactly.
It's geared to the general population as well as to ministry. That's a killer one. And you get a ton of free resources at those.
Yeah. So tickets for Together for the Gospel. And make sure you get 2, one for yourself or someone to give.
Yeah.
So they have someone to tag along with.
Yeah.
There's others. We used to have T4G, which is no longer there.
No longer.
But there's a good list of one. There's one in Cleveland. Alistair Begg does one in Cleveland. That's really good for pastors. There's one down in Nashville next fall. It's called Hutchmoot or Housemoot.
Yeah.
Hutchmoot.
Hutchmoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hutchmoot.
Which is kind of a fun, creative, minded conference. They do a lot of literature, a lot of poetry, a lot of arts, and it's all done very purposefully and with excellence. And it's all put on by a bunch of kind of underground Christians who are in the art scene. So a lot of it's kind of quietly gospel driven. So that's a good one to send someone to who's a bookworm maybe, or just into art and poetry and stuff like that. So Hutchmoot, that's next fall. There's a couple of worship ones, but the one I would suggest if you're gifting to someone who's musical or involved with a worship team or something at your church, there's actually a worship leaders cruise.
Whoa!
In California that's done at least annually. It might be biannually. So you could slip that into the stocking and send your worship musician off to the Pacific Ocean for a week.
Okay. No, that's not.
Are you just hoping Erica will listen to this?
It's actually not that badly priced.
Yeah,
I think they subsidize it through their. It's a ministry I ran into last year. So there's a worship leaders cruise out there in the Pacific Ocean. What's the other one? There's the Sing Conference, the Getty's Sing Conference.
Yeah.
So think about that. Virtual tickets, which you could also print, I'm supposing. You can print them, put them in the stocking if you want to. But
Well, a lot of
So
those, you do get a lot of free books.
Oh, yeah.
With those, and so that
yeah,
does
so
fit.
think of all the space you're
that.
saving in your stocking with our Spotify and our, there you go.
We're starting strong. Luke, what do you have?
Yeah, lots of space in the stocking, so let's fill it up. I'm actually going to start with
Strong's Concordance.
the 12 volumes. No, I'm just kidding. Zach has really influenced this because I have a non-book recommendation too. I got this really nice mechanical pencil. What? For those of you who like to actually write instead of just type everything. I had to look this up because it's like, I'm assuming it's a Japanese brand or something. I don't even know how to say this, so go to the link in the description. Unikuru Toga Roulette Model Auto Lead Rotation 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil, silver body, item code M5101711P26.
So if you purchase this, it helps some Japanese families afford their KFC meals for their.
Yeah.
So it goes to a good cause.
But I like mechanical pencils, but a lot of them are just kind of cheap plastic.
Yeah.
And this is like steel. It feels like a pen. And it actually has, I don't really know how it works. There's like a ball in here that as you write, it rotates the lead so you don't get like a flat spot. Sometimes you write and you kind of have to turn the pen in your hand, but this does it for you as you write. So it's very like
State of the art.
yeah, I've never really put like luxury and mechanical pencil in the same sentence, but
But you are today.
this is where that would happen.
Yeah.
And it's pretty affordable. Like the retail price is $15, but I've only ever seen it on Amazon on sale, usually for like almost 50% off. So it's like $8 for a pen. And this will last you, I would assume, a very long time for a pencil, not for a pen. So that's my non-book recommendation.
Well, maybe to complement that, if you are more pen than pencil goer, you could drop in one of the luxury North Park Community Church branded pens that you can find.
At no cost.
Which we have a
no
stellar
cost.
deal on right now.
A stellar deal. If you're a member here, you get 2 to go home with you. I just made that up right here. I've got one more that's non-book, and then the rest of mine are books. So I'll just throw this one out there. Is if one of my favorite websites to kind of peruse around is missionalwear.com. Missionalwear.com. And it's just got a lot of Puritan, Reformed, theologian gear on it. And so if you go to missionalwear.com, click the tab accessories, they have a tab bookmark sets. And you can get some really cool designed bookmark sets with theologians on them, with quotes, with Bible verses. They're just really well done. They look nice. And for your favorite book lover, it's always good to have a little supply of good bookmarks that can help keep the place. So that's what I would add on to the list. And then from there on out, I'm all books.
Great. Do you have any more non-book ones, Zach?
A couple of non-serious ones.
Non-serious ones? Okay.
I was looking up for things not to get your. Yeah.
Okay, well, while you do that, why don't you do your first book recommendation, Luke?
You want my first book?
Yeah.
Okay. First book is going to come as no surprise to anybody that's been listening to our book recommendation series. One of my favorite books that I have read was Russ Ramsey's Rembrandt is in the Wind, and I've recommended that one in the past. It was compelling. It was beautifully written. It was an enjoyable read. And just about a month ago, his sequel came out called Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart, what art teaches us about the wonder and struggle of being alive. And so Russ Ramsey is a pastor. He writes with a pastoral bent, but he's also writing just as kind of an art enthusiast as well. And so he kind of takes the biographical stories of different artists, and then he uses that as a platform to really explore some of the existential realities of being human in this world. But then he makes that beautiful pivot into kind of the Christian response of it. And so he writes. He's not writing poetry, but he writes poetically in his narrative sketching. And so just very beautifully written. Big fan. Van Gogh Has a Broken Heart. Russ Ramsey. Great read.
Yeah, I still need to read the Rembrandt is in the Wind. I have that on the Kindle, and I want to read it because you've talked so highly of it. Let me give one more book recommendation before Zach throws a curveball at us. I have a couple book recommendations, and then I have an author recommendation and a couple book series recommendations. But one of my actual book recommendations is called Redeeming Productivity by a guy named Reagan Rose. And he actually has a whole ministry that he's started himself called Redeeming Productivity. So this is kind of like the summary of kind of all that he teaches in his ministry. But he's a master's seminary graduate, and he's written a few other books, but this is kind of, I think, his pride and joy. And I'm recommending this because, first of all, it's short. It's less than 150 pages. It's a good book to slip in a stocking. But I think it's fitting as we begin a new year, and a lot of people have goals of kind of getting reorganized and trying to be more productive. And it's just a really good book in that it basically talks about a theology of productivity. And so he talks about why we as Christians and as stewards of what God has given us, why we are called to put effort into the area of productivity. So it's not, there is some practical stuff where he's given you tips and tricks, but it's mostly that theology of selling you on the idea of why you should be concerned with productivity. Yeah, it's a really good, well put together book called Redeeming Productivity. Zach?
So a serious note first. Actually, the Russ Ramsey was at the top of my list. Both.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
So because they're on my list to actually read as well.
Oh, good.
So we got 3 points for Russ Ramsey.
Yeah.
Because your wife read the first one, right?
Yeah,
She spoke very
and
highly of it,
interestingly,
too.
when we were first considering coming to North Park, I think Pastor Luke was going through it. Mm-hmm. So we kind of first heard our first quotes of it through Pastor Luke, through his live streams 2 years ago. So
Yeah, I was doing that.
You're doing a Psalm series
in preparation
Yep,
for hiring our next worship guy.
Yep.
And we were trying to develop a little bit of just a brief theology of worship. And I used, one of his stories was one of my opening intros there. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So 3 points for Russ Ramsey there. So I got a few ideas of things, especially for a pastor, for your pastor, things not to get your pastor. At least if you don't know them very well. Some pastors might appreciate some of these. So
I'm so curious right now.
So we talked about coffee last year. So I was thinking maybe you want to get your pastor a nice mug, a coffee mug. And so I started looking up like good coffee mugs, and I saw some really bad coffee mugs. So I'm going to share a couple bad ones. They're safe, they're clean. That depending on your pastor, they might actually appreciate these. Let me see. Here's one. So this first coffee mug, they're like slogans. The slogans on the coffee mug are kind of what makes it or breaks it. So this first coffee mug says, "How does Jesus make his coffee?"
No.
And then on the other side it says, "He brews it."
Yeah.
Maybe your pastor is going through a Hebrews series or something like that. Maybe you want to give him a nice Hebrews pun mug. Another mug says, one side it says, Pastor so-and-so, Pastor Rick. And the other side it says, "Don't make me put you in one of my sermons."
I kind of like that.
I think I've seen that. Yeah. This could also be things your pastor already has.
It could possibly be. My favorite one, though, and I mean this kind of gracefully, the coffee mug says, "It's in the bulletin." Subnote, it's been in the bulletin for weeks.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I would not mind if that one came my way.
So depending on your pastor, you may or may not want to consider some of these. Yeah.
I'm thinking like staff gift ideas.
Yeah, and these are all over like Etsy or Amazon. Some of them are actually really well thought out. Some of them are not so much. The funniest one, though, is it's a candle, and the wick that sticks out is Pastor so-and-so's last nerve. Oh, look, it's on fire. One thing I would highly recommend not getting anybody, pastor or non, is a customizable bobblehead. Speaking from experience, that has happened to me.
What does that mean, customizable? Like you
You take a picture of your pastor, send it in, and they make 3D.
Yeah.
I can't
Print.
imagine it's flattering.
Yeah. So me and two other pastors received custom bobbleheads one year as for Pastor Appreciation Month. They had us up front and everything at this big moment. It was really fun.
Did you open it on stage?
Yeah, we all did.
Wow.
What's kind of awkward about it is I had a little bit more stubble at that point.
Yeah.
So the photo they had of me was like really shaggy.
Yeah.
And so that's the print that made it onto my bobblehead.
Oh, my. You still have it?
No.
Oh, no.
But points for Russ Ramsey.
Yeah.
Very good.
Just a quick maybe interlude here. If your name is Jeremy Lemon or you are purchasing for a Jeremy Lemon, G.K. Beale's commentary on Revelation coming in at about 1,000 pages might be just what you're hoping to find in the stocking stuffer. Okay. So just wanted to throw out a quick little bit of love for Jeremy. Now moving on for everybody else. Next one that I would put up there is a book that I have not read yet, but it's one that I listened to a podcast from the author about the book. I am convinced that it will be excellent. And Luke, you own it. And it's a graphic novel, so maybe one for the teenager or younger or elementary age kid, called The Myth Makers by John Hendricks. And it's the story of C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien and their friendship. And the Kindle edition looked really cool in how they did the graphic novel that you showed me, Luke, and how it kind of moves from box to box. But their friendship was really unique. There's, I think, a lot of beautiful qualities that a young person could see and receive and begin to value and pursue within it. And so The Myth Makers by John Hendricks, graphic novel about the friendship between J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Yeah, that looks really cool. I don't actually have that. I just got the sample because I was curious how the graphic novel works on iPad. But it is really cool how they do that with the technology. My other book recommendation is called The Believer's Joy, and it's a short collection of sermons from Robert Murray McShane. And he's someone that I started interacting with his writing this year, and it's really just been a joy learning about his life through the biography that his friend wrote of him, and then starting to read some of his sermons. And Christian Heritage Books has recently started putting together these nice little collections of sermons by him. They're not like word for word his sermons. They're like you can very easily read them in one sitting in like 15 minutes or so. So it reads like a whole sermon, but he definitely preached longer than what's here. But this one in particular is less than 100 pages, and it has 7 sermons from him. They're very readable, even though he is an older author, and they're just very Christ-exalting. They're very devotional, very rich. And Sinclair Ferguson wrote the foreword to this volume. And his advice is to read the sermons out loud. The best way to benefit fully from McShane's sermons is to read them out loud.
With your best Scottish accent?
I was going to say, if you could do it in a Scottish accent, that would be even better. Yeah, I guess I didn't say who Robert Murray McCheyne is, but he was a minister in Scotland who only lived to be, didn't even live to see his 30s, but he had a very remarkable ministry in the short few years that the Lord allowed him to preach. And so you just see how profound it was in that they're still putting out these collections of his sermons. But I want to emphasize, I know that probably doesn't sound interesting to a lot of people, like a book of a collection of sermons, but it's just, don't even think of it as a sermon. Just think of it as a slightly longer devotional that you're reading. And it's just very enriching. And yeah, The Believer's Joy by Robert Murray McCheyne. There's a few others, but this is the shortest one. It's like if you wanted to cut your teeth on his content, it would be the best way to do that. What's next, Zach?
Did we talk about the wing feather last year?
Yeah.
We did talk about wing feather.
But it's worth repeating.
Yeah.
It was that good.
So maybe for, not necessarily strictly for a younger audience, but for the whole family, is Andrew Peterson's Wing Feather saga. I think we talked about this last year, so maybe I'll just reference to that for you to go back and listen to if you can find it. But it's Andrew Peterson's fantasy fiction 4-book novel. It's very akin to like Narnia or Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. It's fantasy, but it's got a lot of allegory to things you would find in the Bible, a lot of biblical principles, and these travelers, these sojourners trying to find their place in the world and allowing the maker, they call him, to guide them through their life and the purposes he has for them. So since then, I don't know if these have all come out since last year. Maybe they've been out for a while. But Andrew Peterson also has put out a couple companion guides to the Wing Feather series, which are really interesting to me. The first companion guide to the Wing Feather is Pembroke's Creaturepedia, which is basically a small sketchbook of little info blurps about all the creatures you would find wandering through the Glipwood Forest and
Waps and
cows. And if you know the book, Pembroke was one of the characters who was known for traveling the world and documenting all the wildlife and stuff like that. So that could be a fun, if you're into the Wing Feather thing, that could be a fun companion book. The other one is A Ranger's Guide to Glipwood Forest, which also looks interesting. It expands on the legend and lore of this treacherous land of fatal floral and fanged beasts and the history of the first adventurers daring enough to brave the forest's depths. So again, it's just more detail of the land and the people and the civilizations that are there. So if you're into the Wing Feather series, this might be a fun. And depending where you buy it and when you buy it, they also throw in like a really artistic map of the world that the characters live in. So that could be fun to look out for as well.
I like a good map.
Yeah,
Those always have really cool illustrations.
yeah, they're vividly illustrated. So
Even if you haven't like read the books, you probably would enjoy just like looking through all the cool pictures.
yeah, and I think this one, his son, Andrew Peterson's son, did a lot of the illustrating for.
Oh wow!
So it's it's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, that's cool. Very similar to that. Not on my list, but now it's just going to get a quick honorable mention. We're currently working through the Green Ember series, 4-book, similar in theme and style and things like that. Not nearly as good as Wing Feather. So if you're picking between any of them, go Wing Feather 100%. But if you've done Wing Feather and you're looking for something else to read with some kids, Green Ember's solid, super solid. And even Wing Feather, that's good for adults to read too.
Yeah,
Totally.
yep.
My wife's reading it just on her own. Me and the boys went through them, but she's just reading it on her own now and loves it. Next one that I would put out there, what do I want to go with next? How many more do you have, Luke?
I have 3 recommendations. Let me add one though that shouldn't be allowed, but I just saw when I was pulling up the Amazon page for that pencil with the longest name in the world. This will not fit in a stocking, but Systematic Theology by Wayne Grudem, which you've probably heard Pastor Luke reference multiple times, especially if you went to the Systematic Theology class. It's like 65% off right now. And they just did a newer edition, I think this year or last year. So like a nice new edition, that's like $25, which is a steal for a thick
Yeah.
systematic theology.
Yeah.
But you'll probably have to like set that on the ground underneath the stocking. Probably won't go in the stocking. Other than that, I have 3 more recommendations.
Okay. I have 3 more as well. Yeah. Okay. So next one that I'll do is for the man or young man in your life, Meditations on Manhood by Spurgeon. Now, he didn't write it this way. This is a compilation of just different, just things that Spurgeon has said about godly manhood and things like that. It's laid out real nicely as a daily devotional, and it's not long. It's like 1-page devotions. So it'll have like a verse and then just something Spurgeon has said that's there. And so about the same length. Each daily devotions length is about what you would find for My Utmost for His Highest. So it's real readable. But if you have a guy in your life that might not be maybe a big reader, but would like to engage with some good stuff more, that could be a really good little book to slide into that stocking stuffer. Meditations on Manhood by Spurgeon.
You got anything else, Zach?
Did we do Every Moment Holy last year?
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
No.
So there's another really good series. Now it's a series. Mm-hmm. It's called Every Moment Holy. It's a book of liturgies and poems. They're not necessarily straight scripture, but you'll hear, again, just a lot of biblical themes and principles in it. And the liturgies cover just a huge breadth of topics and situations of life, from grieving to cooking pasta on the kitchen stove to decorating the Christmas tree. There's one about like bonfires and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So they're just a series of really well-written liturgies that I think most of them speak truth and encouragement. And they're just handy books to have nearby. Just read one a day, or pull one out when there's a certain occasion. It's called Every Moment Holy. There's 3 volumes now.
3 volumes.
And there is now a pocket edition.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
So if you don't want to get the big one, you can fit one big one in your stocking, or you can get 3 pocket size and maybe fit all 3 in the stocking.
If you were at the family feast, which was last night for us at the time of recording, kind of our opening kind of prayer type thing is it's from Feasting with Friends, one of his liturgies. And I love it. I actually had a concluding kind of benediction that we didn't get to because people were just kind of talking too much, and I just didn't want to interrupt it, and people were leaving, and so we just let it be. But super good. Yeah, the first 2 are written by Douglas McKelvey. The second volume is pretty much all about lament and suffering and mourning. The third one is a bunch of different authors that are writing on a bunch of different topics, and so they're each kind of unique in their own way, but a beautiful trio set there. That's a great recommendation.
Yes, and there's also an app now that goes along with it. So if you have the books and maybe just want to quickly reference one once in a while, you can get the app. I'm not sure if you have to link up a proof that you've purchased
I don't know how
the
it
book
works.
or not, or maybe you can purchase stuff inside the app, but there's a companion app.
Yeah,
to
and
those as well.
there's some artwork in there that's really creative, beautiful.
Yeah, they're really well done. It's nice binding. Mm-hmm. A good gift.
Totally.
For anyone.
The next thing, my next couple recommendations are series. I'm not saying buy an entire series and put it in a stocking, but like buy one of these books. The first one is Crossway Short Classics. And what they've done basically is they're almost like pocket editions of some really important works, mostly by older authors that might be kind of a more onerous read for the modern reader. And they've basically taken them and kind of modernized a lot of the language and abridged them. And they're just really well done, beautifully made, well-made booklets, basically, that just make some of these classic works more accessible. So I have here The Life of God and the Soul of Man by Henry Scougal. Many people probably haven't even heard of that. But if you gave like an original copy to someone, they'd probably be like, I can't even read this. It's like very difficult English. but this way it is very readable. There's other ones by B.B. Warfield, Charles Spurgeon, J.C. Ryle, Jonathan Edwards, Francis Schaeffer. It's maybe one of the most recent authors that they've done. Probably the closest thing to an actual, like this will be a good thing to slip into a stocking because of its size. Crossway Short Classics.
Scoogle.
Put some Scoogle in the stocking.
Another one that I would recommend here is I mentioned a little devotional for the man or young man in your life. Here's one that is one that we're currently going through. We are maybe 3/4 of the way through in our family devotions, and it's called The Ology. So a little play there, because theology is, study of God, study of truths about God, and they did a little play called The Ology. And you have, so the way they lay it out is kind of like a systematic theology for kids. So you have like theology of humanity, theology of Jesus, and theology of the Holy Spirit, theology of the church. And so it's the study of the church, Jesus, all those things. It's about 1.5 pages, each one really nicely done, good illustrations, good connection for kids, good scripture references, very readable, very understandable. I've got an 8 and 11-year-old. They read it. We just take turns reading paragraphs, and they're hanging. They connect with it. It's just a good way to get good, really important truths about the Christian faith out there for discussion as a family. So The Ology, very good.
Yeah, we're actually going through that right now.
Are you? Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
And I thought there was a connection. I need to verify this, but that came out. When did that come out?
It's been out a little while.
Yeah. So The Ology by Martin. I can't remember say his last name. I'm Polish too. I should be able to say it. Marty Makowski. Sovereign Grace Music put out an album called The Ology about the same time. I think
That's right.
I think there's a
remember that,
because they're really targeting kids and families really hard. So with your new Spotify subscription, you can listen to the The Ology soundtrack from Sovereign Grace.
I love it.
And then go to the Sovereign Grace Conference.
Yes.
One of the things I really liked about the book, because by virtue of just being a pastor, I think sometimes I'm a little particular about the devotional things I use with my kids. And the endorsements at the beginning of the book is like a bunch of New Testament scholars and biblical scholars that are all like, yes, these are not watered down or diminished or skewed truths. They're good truths, but then packaged in just really accessible way for young minds. So I really like that it had like New Testament scholars endorsing it for kids. So The Ology. Luke, what you got next?
Speaking of kids' books, that just made me think Alistair Begg's ministry, Truth for Life. If you go to their store, they have a lot of really good, they usually always have good books for kids, but there's a lot of good stuff on there right now. So that's my contribution to some kids' books. The other series I was going to mention, so I mentioned Crossway Short Classics. There's also something by Christian Heritage Books, which is an arm of Christian-focused publications, called C.H. Spurgeon Classics. So if you've been at North Park for any amount of time, you've probably heard Pastor Luke reference Spurgeon multiple times, but maybe you've never read him for yourself. Maybe you've seen some of his books, books that have been put together of his writings that are large and intimidating. But this C.H. Spurgeon Classics series is a lot more accessible to the average reader, I think. I don't think they've updated the language because he's pretty readable as is. Mm-hmm. You might have some of that King James language in there, but especially after you sit for a few minutes and read, like you'll get used to the way he writes. So I don't think they've necessarily edited the content, but they've put out a bunch of paperback books that are kind of just normal book length, nothing intimidating about them. So I have one here called Come Ye Children, Practical Help Telling Children About Jesus. But there's a bunch of them. But if you want to check out some Spurgeon, that's a good place to start.
Spurge. All right, last one that I have is a package set, 2-book combo, one for the adults, one for the kids, but written as a pairing, I think. And another disclaimer, have not yet read it. It's on my desk in my office, but just came in last week and I've not had a chance to actually read it. But again, one of those ones that you just kind of know that you can be confident that it'll be good. And it is called To the 10th Generation, God's Heart for Your Family, Far into the Future by Ray and Janie Ortlund. If you've heard the Ortlund name, it's because they've got a couple kids who are writing just some books that have gotten a lot of attention or just in ministry. And Ray Ortlund, the dad in the family, grandpa, now retired pastor, him and his wife, they just by all accounts have just been so incredibly faithful as parents and in the way that they've transferred the faith to their kids and grandkids, and he's even the recipient of that, and that his dad was a faithful pastor, and so really anything that Ray Ortlund writes on family, I'm going to put my hands on it and read it. And they have a book called Your Family is God's Plan, His Mercy from Generation to Generation. That's a kid's book to help kids start to see how God uses family dynamics for kingdom purposes. And so, so I think that could be a fun one to engage with together, both mom and dad growing, and then also getting that complement book for the kids so that they can start to grab that same heartbeat.
That's exciting. You said those just came out?
Yeah.
I've thought before, I hope that they write a parenting book just because you see the evidence in all three of their boys and how they've been raised in the faith and have kept to the faith. Mm-hmm. And I was always kind of surprised that they don't have a parenting book because they have lots of other books.
Yeah.
Awesome. My last thing was going to be an author recommendation. Almost anything from this author, I think, could be a good gift for a Christian family member. But specifically, I'm thinking of what Crossway has been doing recently. The author is J.I. Packer, who I'm sure you've heard of. His biggest book is probably Knowing God. That's kind of like his magnum opus. But he has a lot of good books, and Crossway has gotten the rights to most of his most important works and has been republishing them in like these really beautiful editions that are really well made and a pleasure to read. So I'm just going to say, just pick a J.I. Packer book and give it to your spouse or your college student, and it will. If they read it, they will benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like I work for Sovereign Grace, which I don't. But they also did another musical composition to Knowing God. They took basically a song, made a song for every chapter of the book, just about. And it's actually really good. It's very congregational. So if you don't want to read the book, you can hear it in song, the summaries in song. And it's actually really good music. We've used a few songs in church already.
That's good. That also makes me think of, some people might not know this, you're going to hear probably a lot of Crossway recommendations from us since they're just such a solid publisher. If you go to their website, you can set up a Crossway Plus account, and it's totally free. It's just like signing up for anything else, except you don't have to pay anything, and then you get 30% off everything, I think. And like they have a holiday sale right now, and so Crossway Plus members get like 40% off, I think. So it makes most things even cheaper than what you would find on Amazon. So if you like books, it's kind of a no-brainer to do that because it means cheaper books. So there's 20 plus recommendations for you for maybe you can plan for the next 5 Christmases worth of stocking.
Maybe we should just keep recording and get next year's episode done. Just
Split.
Yeah. I feel like we all have a little bit of a list left still.
How long is this? Like 40 minutes?
We're pushing an hour.
Yeah, we could split it into like 6 Christmases worth of just a 10-minute
Except I'm going to have a
episode.
whole new list this time next year.
Yeah, we will. Well, thank you for listening. We hope this was helpful to you. And if there's anything that you think would be a good gift idea that we didn't mention, tell us about it, because we are always accepting recommendations for ourselves. But hope this episode finds you well. And I was going to say have a Merry Christmas, but this is coming at the beginning of December because you got to have time to buy these things if you're going to buy
A
something.
Merry
So,
Advent.
yes, have a Merry Advent. And make sure you're using your Advent devotional guide
That's right.
that we gave you.
Nice blood.